Good evening and welcome to the February 6th meeting of the Glendale Sustainability Commission. Meetings are broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 6, and AT&T UVerse, Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, and on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, iOS and Android devices using a free app called Cablecast and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Call 818-548-4013 for program schedules. For public comments and questions during the meeting, call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that agenda item is discussed. If you have any questions about matters on the agenda or requests for assistance, please contact the city clerk at 818-548-2090 during regular business hours. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bartusoff.
Here.
Commissioner Werner.
Here.
Commissioner Brinkerton. Vice Chair Cartunian.
Here.
Chairperson Bazemore.
Here.
Ex officio Sanchez. And ex officio Ghazarian.
Here.
1A, Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right.
1B, Land Acknowledgement.
We would like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting in the city of Glendale, in Tovagnar, the home and traditional lands of the Gabrielino Tongva people. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, and the Gabrielina Tongva communities who continue to be stewards of this land. Glendale's history did not start with colonialism. Indigenous communities have lived in this area and been stewards of this land for hundreds of years and numerous generations. The Gabrielina Tongva communities and culture continue to grow and flourish, and we encourage our audience to learn more about the Gabrielino Tongva tribe and the many indigenous communities in Glendale and beyond. To get started, you can find a list of books and resources at eglendalelac.org/Native American.
1C, Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for the February 6, 2025 meeting of the Sustainability Commission was posted February 3rd, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. 2A, Approval of Minutes. Approval of the minutes of the Commission's special meeting held January 13, 2025.
Any comments or modifications for the minutes? Okay, any motions to approve?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
3, Board Member Staff Comments.
Okay. We don't need roll call for minutes, right? No, that's right. Yes. Any comments from the commission?
I was hoping for an update on I understand that City Council heard the item that we sent to them about the on-site dining disposables proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Werner. Yes, we presented to the City Council the Plastic Waste Reduction Regulations proposed ordinance, which focused on 3 items. First was establishing disposable foodware standards, so that all disposable foodware had to be either compostable or recyclable. Second item was that stirrers, utensils, etc., could not be made from any sort of plastic, would have to be made of compostable type materials. And then the third item presented to City Council was for dine-in premises. So if you dine in on a premise, you would not be able to use, or the restaurant would not be able to provide single-use plastics. You'd have to use reusables. The presentation was a presentation provided by staff and by Recreate, our consultants. Staff presented the rationale for the ordinance, and then Recreate presented about the outreach that they had done into the food and beverage community. After much deliberation by City Council, at this time, City Council did not feel that they were able to support the regulations as presented, and they requested staff go away and do some more research and come back to City Council specifically regarding incentives to assist food and beverage providers transition to the proposed ordinance if it does eventually get adopted by City Council. And City Council also, from memory from the meeting, I haven't reviewed the meeting yet, from memory from the meeting, did request staff to obtain additional data. So over the next couple of months, I think we said that we won't be able to begin the work straight away because we're working on other projects, that we'll start work on the City Council requests in probably 2 to 3 months' time, and then return to City Council as suggested in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I did watch it, and there was a general consensus about having a carrot rather than a stick when it came to possible, penalties and so on for those that didn't comply, and wanting to move more in the direction of incentivizing them to just do it voluntarily, it sounded like. So, okay, well, thank you. That's it for me.
First of all, I want to apologize. I wasn't here during the last commission meetings, but I want to commend my colleagues, my fellow commissioners. I wholeheartedly agree with the letter that was drafted on the drive-through for multiple reasons. And, this commission wants to do it for environmental reasons. Transportation Commission should be looking at it for transportation safety issues. And more importantly, it impacts the quality of life of the neighboring properties, whether it's businesses or residences. Just because there's a popular food establishment that leases a property next to you, your quality of life in the morning and whenever that establishment is most used completely changes. One that I pass by pretty much every day is the In-N-Out on Harvey and Holly. Although I'm not sure if the property itself is in Glendale or LA. It may be in LA. But the impact of it, when you leave the hospital, the left turn, the folks that are stuck there.
Hi, sorry, this is an agenda item that's coming up, so you.
Oh, okay. But
You want, yeah.
I
Thanks,
just wanted
Alec.
to be on the record that I wasn't here when it was started, and I wholeheartedly agree with it, for the reasons that I mentioned.
Okay. Well, we will revisit that. That's action item 5A. So we'll come back. Any other comments or anything to mention? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, David, thank you for the update with what happened at City Council. I also watched the meeting and actually was here and spoke in support of it. As an individual, although I did disclose that I am on the commission, I am pretty disappointed at what happened. I want to thank staff and the consultant for all the work that they had done. My understanding and how I've been tracking this over time has been that the work that led up to the council meeting was a result or a request that had come from City Council a long time ago. And so, there was an impression or understanding that we were working towards something that was going to be adopted or accepted by City Council. And, many of us, I think, were disappointed that nothing came of that. So I want to make sure that we are acknowledging the hard work that staff did and the invaluable work that, or the amount of work that went into it. And I think to that end, it would be helpful. I'm on a roll here. I want to keep doing things like this where we advise council And if what we've heard at the council meeting was that the desire is to focus on an incentive program, then what we do as a commission is ask council that if they are not able to identify funding sources for this incentive program that they eventually will support, that they allocate funding within our budget, within Measure S, to realize this program. So if they're not willing to have the, as my colleague phrased it, a stick approach, then let's double down on the carrot approach and put our money where our mouth is. So if I need to, perhaps I could suggest that we agendize an action item that involves sending a letter to council asking that they find the necessary funding for a program like this. And I want to do it quickly because we're in the budget season. And so all the departments are talking about their various funding requests. Council will be having budget sessions very, very soon. So I think this is a timely conversation to have. And that would require a second if there's an interest in entertaining that idea.
Would that be something that, before we get a second, would that be something that could be brought to our next meeting potentially? Given the timeline that council is working off of, I understand we could probably get it together, but do we know when does council have their budget sessions typically?
Yeah, do we know?
They haven't been scheduled yet, but they generally start in April.
Okay, so then a March discussion. Okay.
And as I understood the timing of things, I thought we were like 2 months out from the moment that an idea is introduced. So is it right that the next meeting could be an action item? Oh, it can. Okay.
It is. The council changed its process for considering new business items, that it would be introduced and then considered before it was placed on the agenda. So it's a two-step process, but that same process has not been incorporated into the resolution with the rules for conduct of the meetings. So it just requires a second.
Okay, then in that case, I'd like to ask that we agendize an action item for our next meeting to the effect of asking council to develop an incentive program for single-use plastics, and that if outside sources cannot be identified or secured within a set number of months, we can deliberate later, that they allocate funding from our general budget or other local sources.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, we don't need to vote on it. That's it.
Thank you, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I would just echo the sentiments already shared by my colleagues. I did watch that meeting as well, and I believe I called in, if I'm not mistaken, but again, appreciate the work staff put into that. I know the consultant as well put a lot of time into it, and while it is disappointing, I have some optimism that, if we bring this back potentially with the public benefit piece or the incentives for businesses, this might be able to see this thing through. So with that, unless there are any other comments.
Want to say that as Sustainability Commission, our job is to push the city to go as far as they're willing to go. So, let's come up with these ideas. Let's review them here. Let's come up with the proposals. Ultimately, it's up to them, and the voters will either agree with them and they'll re-elect them, or they won't. But it's our job to push them as far as we can. And I think we did the right thing.
Okay, thank you. What is next?
Next is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items within the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Sustainability Commission members may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff for investigation and report. We currently have no callers on the line.
Okay.
5 action items. 5A, letter from the Sustainability Commission for City Council's consideration of new drive-through regulations. Motion directing staff to submit a letter from the Sustainability Commission to City Council concerning council considerations of new drive-through regulations, subject to Sustainability Commission comments thereon.
Chairperson Bazemore and members of the Sustainability Commission, as mentioned, the Commission wishes to submit a letter to the City Council expressing support to revisit a prohibition on new drive-through establishments in the City of Glendale. I believe this was in response to the citywide moratorium that expired in September 2024. This item was brought to the January 13th Special Sustainability Committee meeting, at which Commission members provided feedback on a draft letter presented by Commissioner Bartrasuf. The letter has been amended and is presented here today for the Commission to consider to submit to City Council. And with that, if Commissioner Bartrasuf wishes to provide any additional information or background to the Commission with the Chair's permission.
Yes, please. Excuse me.
Thank you, Chairperson Bazemore. Thank you, David. As you know, and for Hike's awareness, this is a letter that I had drafted a couple months ago, and through our deliberations at the last commission meeting, I made appropriate edits in order to accommodate those specific requests. Just to summarize and highlight real quick, this has been brought forward, as David had correctly alluded to, as a result of City Council's inability to extend the temporary moratorium on drive-throughs. I believe that conversation had happened because there were concerns about the impacts of drive-through establishments outside of the downtown specific plan area. So this letter essentially outlines the request, the implications of drive-throughs on transportation and sustainability initiatives here in the city. And then as far as the changes that were made, I think we had talked about getting a little bit more specific on what it is that we're asking council. So I did change that language to explicitly mention a moratorium. There was a request to include some exhibits, which you can see in Exhibit 1 on the second and third pages. I'm trying to remember what other specific requests were made by my colleagues. But I did have it written down, and I did incorporate them all to the best of my ability. There was another mention about asking staff to figure out a way to address existing drive-throughs and the issues that they were creating, separate from the moratorium, which only affects new drive-throughs. What else? I believe that's it. So I'm happy to walk through the exhibit examples that I found if my colleagues find that useful. If not, I can stop talking and you guys can express yourselves.
You want to go for it?
I just want to say thank you. This is like, you really, incorporated our comments very well. And I think the whole, the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words really comes into play here too, when you see all this traffic backed up and how alleys have basically been taken over by private businesses, and the city isn't getting any benefit, or the public isn't getting any benefit out of that. And you know, I'm sure there were some rules about some of this, but it just doesn't seem like the existing rules are being enforced at all. And so that, you know, if it's an enforcement nightmare, then they just really need to take a hard look on whether to allow more of these, since I understand some are going to be proposed for South Glendale or already are in the pipeline, and that's my neck of the woods, and I definitely don't want to have to deal with this sort of thing. I know my neighbors are already unhappy about some of these ones that are in South Glendale. I did ask around to some different members of my neighbor association, and they're all concerned about the impacts from these. So thank you for taking the lead on this.
First of all, I often hear council members say one size fits all doesn't work. In this case, one size fits all obviously is not working. The clearance that allows for about 10 cars, that's a one size fits all that is not working. There's some establishments that are particularly more popular during certain times of the day, and I would argue that they usually have 20 plus cars in queue. For the one that I asked earlier, whether it's LA or Glendale, to my knowledge, it is LA. When we may want to, because that's the first thing they're going to say. Well, we didn't, we have no authority there. We need to probably mention in the caption that although it's City of LA, you mentioned here that the queue exceeds 500 feet. The queue actually exceeds the property itself. It impedes the off-ramp. People, when they exit the 134, when they're gonna, drive in front of that property, and it's usually congested between 5 and 6 p.m. It's a gridlock there. So I don't want them to say that, well, that's not City of Glendale.
It is Glendale. I used to live right by there.
The
That's
property
definitely
itself is Glendale?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But because
It's Harvey Drive. It's right at the very end. It's,
Yeah.
Eagle
Okay.
Rock isn't far from there, but it's technically Glendale.
Especially when they're permitting these kind of establishments in and out, and Starbucks, and obviously the existing clearance has not worked. And unfortunately, the citizens, the residents, are getting the grunt of it. They're subsidizing their business with residents being inconvenienced.
Hike, you got me thinking about actually another location. The Foothill and Lowell location is so Lowell is the border of Glendale. So that facility is just outside of the city of Glendale proper. So
the traffic on that particular site extends all the way up. So the city of Glendale gets
into Glendale.
Yeah, the city of Glendale gets the inconvenience of the traffic, and there needs to be a traffic study there. I mean, it's an accident waiting to happen, because people cross over the yellow lines. Those that are not interested in getting into the drive-through lane. So, I mean, obviously the city knows. The city has seen this. Police officers have seen it. So I implore them to address these safety issues.
Yeah, thank you, Alec, for this letter. I myself have witnessed the queuing, the queuing at Harvey and Wilson extending all the way even up onto the freeway, up the off ramp, coming off the 134. I actually commute past that every day when I take the bus home from downtown LA, and so I've witnessed it. I've been in the bus and it's been backed up as a result. So and even used to live near there. So I'm familiar with that as well. I would love, I appreciate everything you've put into this, particularly at the beginning, I think for highlighting the cap, and making sure that we point out that the transportation emissions are a bulk of our greenhouse gas emissions in Glendale. I think that's worth pointing out. And then, of course, following that with all of the impacts on safety and particularly in some of the disadvantaged communities. So I appreciate that. I do wonder still, I think I might have brought this up at our last meeting on how some of the existing restaurants, will be corrected or fixed outside of enforcement. Because I know enforcement, there just hasn't been an effort from what I can tell. Maybe Glendale PD is out there issuing tickets or helping with traffic, but I do kind of wonder, how it is that council, can go about remedying that. And, that's an exercise they should have. I'm sure there's city planning staff that can help with that. But my only concern would be if the resolution was simply extending the length of the drive-through lane within their property, and just saying, oh, okay, 200 isn't enough. We'll give it another 500 feet or something. And then that only leads to like a longer queuing line with more emissions being emitted. And so I think part of this is sort of encouraging kind of a culture shift a little bit, encouraging more walkability there in this corridor. That whole corridor, I think that whole kind of underpass area is rather busy, rather loud, so this could be something that potentially the city could partner with Caltrans on sort of addressing in some ways, more lighting, more trees, more plants, making it so that folks actually feel some of the appeal walking up Harvey, walking up, what is that, Broadway that ends right there, or Colorado, maybe Broadway. Anyways, Wilson, and the road kind of changes there, but regardless, walking under the underpass to get to the, you even have the hospital right there too. So anyways, I like what you've put in here. I appreciate the exhibits. I think those will go a long way. Yeah, I would absolutely support the letter as written.
Thank you. I do want to mention, because I know there was a little bit of background research done by staff as well, particularly as it relates to we had talked about like a street use permit and maybe somehow identifying ways in which they're violating some ordinance or need to adhere to certain things as it relates to the spillover effect. And staff was able to communicate with Public Works staff. And I just want to read this out loud so you all have this information. Public Works says, Public Works does not have a street use permit mechanism that would allow for us to enforce drive-through traffic queues that extend into the roadway. That's on the Public Works side. And then there is a little bit more discussion about this particular establishment on Harvey, with staff saying they're violating the approved circulation plan established when their site was initially approved for this specific location. The main reason is that their drive-through lane spills out into the street. We've already brought this matter to the attention of building and safety, planning, and in and out, but no action has been taken to address it. So it is one of those things, and one of the reasons why I think this is so important is that once these establishments are approved and in the ground, it's very difficult to address the impacts that come as a result. Like I said, the only thing that I anticipate could happen is that police officers are out there ticketing the individual drivers that are the ones that are blocking the traffic, because really it is the individual themselves that are blocking an active travel lane, not the establishment that they're going to. So, and we don't want to be going out and ticketing individuals who are waiting in a drive-through lane. So yeah, thank you for the comments. Any other comments from?
Well, I was wondering if it's possible for the city to revoke the drive-through component of the restaurant if it continues to have impacts on traffic. Isn't that something that, that they could at least threaten to do if they don't try to manage the traffic better?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so we'd have to take a look at the conditions of approval, and typically a revocation would be around established pattern or practice of violation of those conditions. So that is a typical method that planning can use to set up a revocation hearing. So it would be a due process hearing that they'd have to undergo. We can look into that. I don't have an example in front of me of what those conditions are, whether or how they've been violated. Generally, a violation of the circulation, the policies of the circulation element, I have to think about that, as opposed to a written express condition that's attached to a permit issuance.
To be honest with you, I find it hard to believe that the city has no enforcement mechanism, that there's nothing that they can do. My day job, if we have to do infrastructure upgrades, we have to get permits from the city to block a lane, and you have to have a traffic plan. In this case, every day that's happening, and we've sort of turned a blind eye saying, there's nothing we could do. Surely this city can, at a minimum, sit down with these establishments and say, you got to come up with a solution. Let's give you 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. But not doing anything about it and turning a blind eye is not the solution. If you're doing construction at your house and, you're blocking or using a lane, you have to take a permit for that. But in this case, they're using the lane every day. No permit's been pulled to do that. So I just find it very hard to believe that, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, in fact, and I don't know if you were here for this part of the discussion. If we look at Exhibit 1, the first example, which is at Grandview and Glen Oaks, I had mentioned to my other colleagues, the left turn restriction that you see onto the alley, the do not enter, the fact that the alleyway was made into a one-way, all of that is a result of this private establishment using the public right-of-way. So the way in which Public Works, created this situation where they had to work around the private use of the public right-of-way just kind of demonstrates to me that we're constrained in the things that we can do in order to manage this problem. And then the other, if you look at Foothill and Young, the second to last image, which actually this is in La Cañada, it's not in the city of Glendale. But I do disclose in my Exhibit 1 description, these are establishments in Glendale and surrounding areas. So I did do my homework there. If you look at older images of this specific location, that yellow section that's hashed off, it used to be a left turn pocket into that commercial property. And so now you see the left turn pocket has been removed. You can no longer make a left turn at this location. I am 100% certain that happened because there was a spillover effect and congestion being created as part of this very popular drive-through establishment that you can see in the image. And those are 2 cars in the background that are waiting to get into the parking lot. And then I will say with the last image on here at Harvey and Wilson, my description says 500 feet, but that's because I couldn't get like a precise measurement on Google Maps. It's very much close to 1,000 feet. I just wanted to be more conservative in like how I was describing the situation. So on site, it's about 1,000 feet of queuing. They have a very circuitous way of managing the traffic here. And even with the nearly 1,000-foot queuing space that they have on their property, you have the spillover effect onto Harvey. So yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but There is a pre-application submitted for another drive-through In-N-Out at the existing Acapulco restaurant location at Pacific and Burchett, which is literally around the corner from the Pacific on and off ramps for the 134 freeway. And that corner, the other street, Burchett, is a purely residential street. So I'll just leave it at that. So I think this is a timely conversation and worth our efforts to express to City Council our concerns about future drive-through establishments.
Okay. So we do have a motion. Do we have anyone who would like to move the item?
I have a technical question. Can the letter state that it was unanimous if we have somebody that's absent? If the four of us decide to support the letter as it's written?
You could say that it's unanimous as to the members present. You can reflect what the vote was, which would be, whatever it is, it would reflect ayes, noes, absent.
I see. Okay.
That would be an accurate reflection.
Okay. Depending on how the vote goes, if it goes that way, perhaps that could be included in the first sentence. And then I just want to clean up this would like to express in the first sentence to just say expresses. It's more active language. So if you all are okay with that, that works for me.
Commissioner, I think it's less important whether it was unanimous or not. This body votes for it, and if it has a majority, we send it to the council. And it's up to them to, accept it or not. But the unanimous part, I think, whether it was 5-0 or 4-0, it's less important. This body voted for it, and, if they want to, the council and staff want to go back and say who voted yes and no, this is a public meeting.
Right.
So, if that really makes a difference for you, we can add it, but I don't think it's necessary.
Do you feel strongly about having it in there?
Um,
Would you like to make the motion?
I think it sends a strong message. I know council does that from time to time. They say publicly they find it important that a decision is made unanimously. So I'm just following that model. But if we've expressed ourselves, you two are also welcome to express your view as well. I encourage your feedback.
Yeah, I think I understand both points of view. If it's a matter of simply amending on to this first sentence, that the way the vote went, it is a shame that we don't have Commissioner Pinkerton here, but if we want to put that in there, I am willing to support that. Yeah. So do we need to spell out how that would be?
That would be useful.
Yeah, so maybe you can help us with that, Alec, but do you want to include that in the first sentence, or we could do,
So it could
sorry, go ahead.
it could simply be the Sustainability Commission unanimously supports.
So unanimous,
Doing grammar in real time here. I'll leave it to Rondi. She's the expert.
Okay. So the Sustainability Commission unanimously agreed to support revisiting a prohibition on new, not existing drive-through establishments.
I knew you could do it.
so, okay, but with the caveat of that
Yes,
being the
I
members
would
present.
recommend parenthetically including Commissioner Pinkerton absent,
Okay,
if that's okay with the commission based on the direction that you're going. So we have that language, I've written that language down. So the motion would be as written, but subject to modifications suggested by the commission members regarding, reflecting the vote on the motion in the letter. Okay. And is that the only change that was requested at that location in the letter? Just trying to capture it generally within the motion.
Yeah, I think so.
So long as that captures the removal, I think, of the would like that was requested by, or would like to, that
Yeah, the
Alec
way I
requested.
worded it was
The
to
way you
say,
worded it,
yeah, we-
Yeah,
Yeah, we unanimously express support for revisiting it, so.
okay. Okay,
And then maybe after that, say, yeah, Commissioner Pinkerton wasn't present, in parentheses, but. And I don't know, do we need to say new in parentheses, non-existing? Because, I mean, new implies it's not existing on, but fine either way, but
so suggesting
a lot of
removing the
parentheticals
new-
in one sentence.
not existing parenthetical. Yeah, I think that might be a little redundant,
Cleaner, yeah.
cleaner.
Fine with that.
Okay,
So it would read prohibition on new drive-through establishments and not that parenthetical there.
Right.
Okay.
yes. Okay. Great. Anything else from the commission? All right. Does someone want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a second?
You wrote it, you don't want to
I'll,
second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Roll call. Commissioner Bartusev,
Yes.
Commissioner Werner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cartunian,
Yes.
Chairperson Bazemore.
Yes.
And
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. I have a formality question. So I know it's unconventional when a commission expresses its view when a corresponding council item is not agendized. So how would this make its way to council? Does it come in the form of a consent item? Is it a memo that's simply shared? Is that subject to?
Commission Chair, members of the commission, it's not an action item, it's just a communication to the council. So we could discuss with the city manager how and where that would be included on the agenda. Information.
But it would be an agenda item on a council agenda?
That I can't confirm. Perhaps David has more insight into, and so we will be able to confirm the method, but the communication is clearly to the council, whether that is through a separate memo or included as information item.
So would it be possible maybe by our next meeting, especially if we're going to be sending a letter pertaining to a budget item, maybe get some kind of clarity on how this reaches council? That'd be great. Okay.
So, yeah, the next steps are we'll draft a letter with the amendments, get it to the chair to sign, and so we send that to you via PDF document for your signature, and the city manager will be CC'd on the letter, so he'll get the letter, and then we have that discussion with the city manager, how he wants this to be presented to council, and then we'll report back to you and let you know how that's done.
Great, and if it's worth stating out loud, my preference would be that it be an agendized item, so that it is part of the public record, that not that we just approved this letter, but that the city council has received it, and that is known to the public. And that's most commonly known to the public when something is listed on a public agenda, so.
Commissioner, if I may, having seen way too many of these, what may happen, and it's clearly speculative, is that it'll be included in the agenda as file and receive and.
Note and file, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. So if you want it to be, if that's the route that the city decides to go, I recommend that, as residents as well as commissioners, each of us have the right to take that opportunity to, voice or spotlight this letter as a public comment and, let them know that, that this was sent. A lot of times there's way too many things in the packet, and, it may get ignored.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
yeah, thank you. What's next?
5B, approval of the Sustainability Commission's 2025-2026 work plan. Motion directing staff to submit the Sustainability Commission's 2025-2026 annual work plan to the City Council for approval.
Yeah, so as
Alright.
Nora mentioned, the action item is to, second action item is for the Commission to consider the 2025 work plan, which will be sent to City Council. On December 5th, 2024, staff presented the Commission with information on the 2024 work plan, including an overview of the Commission's accomplishments for that year. Staff then proposed guidelines for forming the 2025 work plan. On the January 13th Special Sustainability Commission meeting, each Commissioner presented their proposed projects. The Commission subsequently agreed to include all projects into the 2025-2026 work plan. And the final draft 2025-2026 work plan, reflecting the selected priorities, is presented for the Commission's consideration.
Okay, thank you. Can we scroll down on here, Nora, and just see what? So these are the 4. There's a second page, right? Okay, great. All right. So has everyone had a chance to review this at all separately? Do we want to walk through each section? Any feedback, any comments on this? Maybe let's just start back at the top so folks can read that. Just wanted to get a sense of how long it was. Okay. And again, so the first column is simply the kind of category, if you will, and then the second column are the action items.
Correct. The
Okay.
first column is the focus areas.
Okay.
And then the second column are the project priorities selected by the Commission,
Okay.
as well as the inclusion of a few routine items, like the Earth Day Fair.
Great. Okay, well, this should look somewhat familiar for everyone. I know we've gone through now, I think, 3 meetings discussing this, so I think unless there's anything egregious that's missing or any errors.
Well, for mobility and land use, I see Vision Zero and EV charging infrastructure as totally different things. So I would think those would be 2 different bullet points. So I would make that recommendation, especially because there's only one in that
Yeah.
section. So
In that same box, I noticed and maybe it's because we're thinking forward, but the bicycle master plan is a component within mobility and land use, and that hasn't been adopted by council yet. So I personally would add bicycle master plan to category 2.
As a project priority or under the focus area description?
So just like you have support Vision Zero plan, I would add a second bullet point to say support bicycle master plan.
Okay, and then Nora, if you don't mind scrolling down. Thank you.
I had a question on the bicycle plan. So when you say support bicycle master plan, do you mean support the implementation of it or the finalization of it? Or
The development of, yeah. So just like the Vision Zero plan, which is in development, because they're both planning documents, I would say it would be in our interest to support the development of.
yeah, I think
both
saying
plans.
development of, since there isn't one yet, then.
Right,
So, okay,
right.
okay. We'll do that. And then the other bullet point for the EV charging. Yeah, okay. Cool. Thank you.
I know we talked about fire quite a bit last time, and I see that under number 4, so evaluate effectiveness of fire evacuation resources. I also see heat resilience measures. I'm thinking about not just fire evacuation, but fire, like, let's say, readiness.
Resilient.
Resilience.
Resiliency,
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Resiliency is what I was thinking. Thank you, Cole. So maybe it could be like something a little bit more all-encompassing than specifically fire evacuation. So community resiliency as it relates to like emergency preparedness, something like that.
And then
Yeah, like fire preparation or something like that, fire preparedness or something, but it is mentioned on 5 that we have.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Sorry.
it says,
it's-
under building systems, we have bring fire resistance to the forefront of new construction and remodels, such as promoting the use of non-combustible materials, but that's still different than
Sure, yeah.
having more, just thinking of fire resistance. I was trying to find things on the city website since the previous meeting to see like what is out there, like if you're applying, if you're submitting plans, what else do you have to do? And the fire department requires plans that don't have anything on it except what relates to the fire equipment, the sprinklers and where the different things are located and hookups and things like that. And they even say they don't want to see architectural things unless it's just saying like this is a 2-hour rated wall or something like that. So I thought, it's kind of hard to look at something holistically when you're seeing these pieces of it separated, and it just seems like there needs to be something that someone that just kind of looks at the whole thing and says, well, this could be even safer, if we did this or something like that. So like you look at these plans, you don't know if the roof is metal or a flammable material, or what the wall cladding is. Maybe it's an exterior finish system, which are known to be very flammable. I also heard something just last week about artificial turf is getting a hard look right now, and because of the Eaton fires, and apparently it melts. And I remember we expressed concern. I remember asking at the time we were considering that, like, was this product that they were planning to suggest, is it flame resistant? And they didn't even know. And I thought, well, shouldn't they know? Or shouldn't that be the first question they ask? So, and if you're a firefighter, and you're approaching a building on fire and the lawn is all on fire and you've got to walk through like melty, artificial turf, it's like, this is a serious thing that I don't think a lot of people were thinking about that when they were, swapping out their lawns for this stuff. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm curious to see where that goes.
And just a quick question, is this what we would like to say? Did I capture that comment correctly?
I would say maybe disaster preparedness, maybe in general, I don't know, or climate disaster preparedness. I see, you have it
On
over
the
there,
side,
okay.
yeah.
Evaluate effectiveness of community resilience as it relates to emergencies,
I wouldn't just limit it.
including fire evacuation.
I wouldn't just limit it to fire. Evacuations could be for multiple reasons. Effective response to
Or climate-related disasters,
climate-related
something like
disasters,
that, or.
sure.
Yeah, so maybe something like evaluate effectiveness of community resiliency and preparedness as it relates to climate-related disasters.
or maybe even preparedness, resiliency and preparedness infrastructure, like what are those, cooling centers and,
Well, I think we have a
Evacuation thing.
separate,
yeah.
we do have a
yeah, I
separate
guess we
bullet
could-
for that, right? But
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So either way. It's one of those
I'll
things
make the
like you don't
change.
think of until you need it, right? So.
Yeah.
Yes, give me 1 second.
Something I would encourage of the commission, my colleagues, as a part of this. I know it helps David and the sustainability office to have ideas for, who to bring, who to talk to, who to have here. So if there's any suggestions, certainly around something like this, fire preparedness, resiliency, if you come across any experts, or think of
Fire
think of
chief.
someone to think of someone to
Or the
talk to.
top.
I think let
Yeah.
David know,
Yeah.
because that will be helpful, I think, for agendizing
Yeah, the
future
city has
meetings.
an emergency response group, but it's not like there's this roster of names and phone numbers. So I was trying to do some of the groundwork like that, and it's not, and personnel change, and so yeah, I'm not sure who that would be, but I'm happy to help make calls if you need help wading through that.
Someone from FEMA.
There you go. Well,
Yeah,
someone from
that-
FM Global, I would really, really like to hear from
Hands might
someone.
be full right now.
FM Global, it used to be called Factory Mutual, now they just call it FM Global, but that's they started off as an insurance company for factories, because factories used to burn down every other day. And so they work to try to make factories less likely to burn down, but then now they've spread out to other things, other businesses, things. Usually it's more of a commercial insurance, but they have all kinds that you can go online and find their different materials on wind resistance for roofs and things that are less combustible than other. They manage the Roof Nav thing, if you've ever heard of Roof Nav. So there's a website you can go to and kind of plug in your roof system there, and it'll tell you if it meets their standard, And so ultimately, if you follow all this, you're supposed to get a lower insurance premium than if you don't follow them. So is how they manage that, the compliance part of it. I mean, they're not an agency with, power or something like that, but they have a lot of information. I'm sure they're over and studying the Eaton fire and like what happened, what could we do differently. And I just think they have insight that, I've spoken to some of them in the past and this is what they do. And I just think that they might be able to help Glendale figure out how to manage our risk. That's basically what they do. It's risk management.
Right? Those sound like good experts to talk to. So with that, are there any other feedback from the commission on the work plan? Looks like we have one amended item in the fourth category. Was there anything prior to that? We had other edits as well?
Yes.
Mobility and land use.
That's right.
To split out EV charging and then to support the development of the bicycle master plan.
Okay. All right, so with that, any final thoughts?
Well,
Any
I
other
had
thoughts?
mentioned also about exploring the possibility of becoming a fire-safe city. That was something that was, I didn't even know about until I was looking at my insurance bill, but that's something that I think a lot of people would get on board for, one, because everyone's premiums would go down, but, council's hearing a lot from people about, electricity's gone up, water's gone up, rents are going up, leases for businesses, and so here's finally an opportunity to manage your day-to-day costs. I think that would be a good time to do that and make the city safer at the same time. But so that was one of the things I had mentioned last month.
So I think we'll bring that information back as part of a report in one of these items.
Excellent. Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so the motion directing staff to submit the work plan would be, we would add as amended by the Sustainability Commission.
All right. Do we have a motion, or does anyone wish to move the item?
I'll move the item, yeah, to direct staff to submit the Sustainability Commission 2025-2026 work plan as amended by the commission today to the city council for approval.
I'll second it.
Excellent. Roll call.
Commissioner Bartusev,
Yes.
Commissioner Werner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kartunian,
Yes.
Chairperson Bazemore.
Yes. All right. Thank you all, and thank you, staff. I know it's been a little bit of back and forth on that and lots of work, so thank you. All right. What do we have next?
6 is reports and information. We currently have no items. 7 is sustainability office updates, AGSA outreach update. Then alrighty. So today, our partners, American Green Zone Alliance, were supposed to come and present to us an update of outreach work they did in December. Unfortunately, they had some emergencies, so I will be covering the presentation for them. Luckily, I was able to join them on one of the outreach days with one of the teams, so I have some personal experience that I can also share, and hopefully I'm able to answer questions and explain the presentation. So AGSA did outreach in December for us on December 3rd and 12th with 2 teams and 2 crews on both days from around 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. The extent of the outreach was going out to communities in Glendale, driving around in hotspot areas where we get a lot of reports from complaining of gas-powered leaf blower use, and finding the landscapers and speaking to them about the ordinance. So the engagement focused on extending written and verbal information in Spanish and English on current gas-powered leaf blower ordinance, and then disseminating information on current programs that bring down the cost of commercial battery electric blowers. And the program specifically was the AQMD program, the Glendale Water and Power Rebate Program, and then AGSA had a special voucher program. So they were able to spread information about that with Glendale landscapers. And then it also gave commercial battery electric blower tutorials, and they were able to answer questions on run times, cost benefits, operational workflow differences between gas and electric blowers. As part of the crews that were present, 2 of them were active landscapers who were using electric equipment, fully electric equipment in their maintenance on a day-to-day basis. So these landscapers were able to speak to others who are using gas equipment and explain cost benefits, operational workflow differences, so on and so forth. And the conversations that they had were lengthy, but it was important because the landscapers who were using gas equipment were able to have all their questions answered. And then AGSA was able to further assist gardeners in procuring battery electric blowers through various existing programs, including their own voucher program. As part of the engagement outcome, more than 30 small individual business gardeners had been engaged with in their language of comfort because AGSA had bilingual representatives on the field. And these were meaningful interactions that impart pertinent information about the City of Glendale's gas leaf blower ordinance and allowed workers to try Apex commercial battery electric leaf blower models. This was really important because there were some landscapers who were using electric blowers, but they weren't commercial. So they had a really negative view of electric leaf blowers. In their mind, it wasn't as comparative to gas-powered leaf blowers. But because they were able to try the commercial-grade electric ones, that changed some of their minds. And then AGSA also explained the cost benefits and how electric tools need less maintenance, plus tips on charging battery properly and preventing theft. A big concern that we heard was battery charging and theft. Apparently, it's extremely common for equipment to be stolen. So gardeners who were using electric leaf blowers on a day-to-day were able to give some tips and tricks.
Do you recall offhand what some of those were? I know you're not from AGSA, but
Some of them were chains. The other ones were using of vans. And then as far as battery management, I'm not an expert on that,
Sure.
but there were lengthy conversations about how to prevent theft.
Okay, thank you.
And then as part of the engagement outcome, 9 small business gardeners have been awarded AGSA vouchers from Steel and are currently in the process of purchasing electric leaf blowers. Each company has received a voucher that reduces their purchase cost by $1,500. And then 10 more individual small business gardeners have expressed interest in buying electric leaf blowers and are currently on the waiting list for additional vouchers. And these vouchers specifically are the AGSA vouchers. And the upcoming action for this engagement are as follows: schedule the delivery date for electric leaf blowers and other electric tools, and contact the additional 10 small business gardeners who showed interest, and provide details about current programs and support them in making the switch to electric equipment. And then the following slides are some of the landscapers that AGSA was able to help directly. We can look at landscaper 1 because this was a landscaper that I had spoken to. He was able to purchase 1 leaf blower, 2 batteries, and 1 charger. He services 15 houses in Glendale. He had the AGSA voucher. He had the South Coast AQMD rebate program, and in the end, his balance was around $1,000. And he was able to purchase all of these products over here. And he was approved for it. It's just in the process of being delivered. And then similar information can be found on all the other 9 gardeners that AGSA has been helping.
Just curious about the math here, Nora. I'm looking at this and wondering, so what does the cost column mean? Is that after the AQMD discount potentially?
I think so.
Okay, so the true cost that we should be interpreting here includes another $1,400 on the, like, another column would be on the left potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was just trying to get a ballpark range or number of what kind of one of these units actually costs. Okay, thank you. Everyone else following that? Yeah, okay. And I guess while we're here, I have a question of how, aside from these outreach events, how are gardeners able to get these vouchers? Is it only through the outreach that we do?
The South Coast AQMD one and the Glendale Water and Power one is available to all. Glendale Water and Power one specifically for Glendale residents. South Coast AQMD to everyone who lives in Southern California. This AGSA one was a special voucher that they got through working with Steel. And the 9 gardeners had to go through training with AGSA. After the training, they would get certification and the voucher.
Okay, and the GWP one is, do we know how much? Is that reflected on here?
None of them were able to apply for the Glendale Water and Power one. That's $50 reflected on your next GWP bill
Right,
if you're
okay.
a Glendale resident. So you have to have like an address in Glendale.
It's a resident, that's right. Okay, thank you. But anyone can go online and get, well, with whatever the necessary prerequisites, anyone can get the South Coast AQMD one?
Correct. One of the landscapers actually didn't have a business license, and that's a requirement.
Okay,
So AGSA was able to help them get a business license
Oh,
so
cool.
they can get a rebate.
that's great.
So that column that's saying it's gas, so that means that what they're using, like an efficient gas one, or it says gas versus electric, and most of them say gas or gas and electric on that page anyway. So
Yes, so that indicates that that landscaper had gas equipment, and we had approached them because we had seen them using
well,
gas
they
equipment.
previously had. Okay, it's
Yeah.
not clear because it makes it sound like we're incentivizing them to use gas. I'm like, no. Okay, I'm better now. Okay, so I should say, like, I guess, so, should clarify that a little bit, like, before transition or what current equipment or equipment being decommissioned or something, but, okay. And do they have to turn that in? Okay, so it's like a buyback kind of thing, okay.
Buyback, oh, interesting.
Well,
Okay.
because otherwise it ends up somewhere else spewing, whatever, so that makes sense.
With South Coast AQMD specifically, you have to turn in a gas equipment to get dismantled. With the AGSA voucher, you do not have to. So what a lot of the landscapers did is they were able to purchase batteries and chargers with the AGSA voucher, but exchange a gas-powered leaf blower with an electric one and get the South Coast AQMD rebate. So they were able to stack all the rebates.
Does the city have a database of the large HOAs or the largest HOAs in the city? Because those are the ones that we really need to target. You know, the guy that, you know, services 10, 15 houses in Glendale, compared to the largest HOAs, I live in one, this is, you know, tip of the iceberg. Just quite curious.
We have a list of existing HOAs as well as contacts of their president and vice president.
Wonder if it'd be worth to send a letter.
I think it's apartment building owners that we really need to be looking at.
Building owners,
too, just like
HOAs.
The HOAs are aware, at least the neighborhood-wide kind of homeowners groups. I know there's HOAs as in like a condo association. I imagine a lot of those don't know, but like the members of the Glendale Homeowners Coordinating Council have been all over this for years and helped advocate for these kinds of things. So they don't need to be informed because
As
they already
apartment
know.
owners
but-
or HOAs, if we have a database, it's yet another lever that we can pull, because there's a lot of folks out there that really don't know that it was banned. And I've had conversations with people that, you know, think I'm crazy. No, we can use these. And
Isn't
I wonder
there a
if
Glendale-
that's something that's
yeah.
possible.
There's a Glendale apartment
Homeowners.
or apartment owners association, so I don't know if they've been roped into all this, if they've been looped in, I should say, but.
We have sent emails, but we haven't sent physical letters. And I should mention that these 30 landscapers that we approached were specifically in hotspot areas. I know from speaking with staff, code enforcement has been getting a lot of calls, and the calls are really targeted in specific bubbles and zones, and that's where we went out to.
Mary, go ahead.
I would like to ask, is there a record of how many more times such outreach events can occur? Because if we have a list that is compiling more and more potential gardeners or people we can help out with this program, how much of the financial aspect is still going to allow for these kind of vouchers to exist and be given out?
Good question. So I know the AGSA steel vouchers, they're in the process of negotiating getting more. So I don't know from the AGSA side when that will happen, but when they do, they will inform us so we can call landscapers back. The core program, which was an old program that was through the State Department, they have small rebates coming in March. So we can call landscapers back up when those rebates become available again. It's only $6 million, not a lot of money. It was previously $30 million. $6 million is what's remaining. As far as AGSA doing this type of outreach again, unfortunately, there currently is no more money left in the contract with AGSA.
Would there still be the possibility of, instead of just giving out the vouchers, having these kinds of events to inform them just of the process of getting new electric equipment, how it works, and fulfilling that aspect of the program?
Not exactly how it was done, because during these two types of events, AGSA brought in landscapers who use electric equipment, and then they brought in electric equipment that they had. We don't have those kinds of assets, so we wouldn't be able to replicate it exactly the same way.
Thank you.
I'll just say real quick, I think Hike was referring to like the classic version of an HOA where they're actually,
Condo association, yeah.
no, but
Yeah.
are you talking about Rancho San Rafael?
Yeah.
Yeah, so single family homes, but are managed in large by,
Gated community
Yeah.
or something like that,
yeah,
okay.
so there is, that might be the only one in Glendale that's like a proper, HOA, maybe. I'm trying to think of what other areas could fit in that category. But you're right. It's like one contact could affect hundreds and hundreds of homes. But I think that's the only one I can think of.
What is the coordinating council? Who are their members? Isn't there like a HOA coordinating council?
Yeah, the Glendale Homeowners Coordinating Council, of which I'm one of the vice presidents. It's a kind of a delegation of all the different, they're more neighborhood associations, or in fact, condo associations aren't even like eligible to join because it's supposed to be, single-family home type neighborhoods, even though Adams Hill is a neighborhood association, so we do allow, renters and tenants and so on to join our group. And so the city is divided into, many different neighborhoods. They don't have, they all have their own rules as to whether they collect dues and how much, and how often they meet and all those kinds of things. But most of them have some kind of board. We meet monthly. Since the pandemic, we've met virtually, usually the first Monday of the month, and we discuss issues of interest to residents and as well as property owners in the city.
Okay, thank you. Well, maybe let's get back on topic here. So is there...
Well, you were
Is that it,
asking
Nora?
about prices, so I
you're
was
totally
looking back
right.
at the text that my gardener had sent me, and this was August of last year, so may have gone up in price since then. But the blower he bought in order to do this, do his work in Pasadena, which adopted these a while back. The blower alone was $1,600, and then each battery is $400 each, and he needed 4 of them. Because if it's a large property, you might run out of a battery. Even not my dinky yard, but in some people's yards. So you can't get by with just one battery. You need to have some charging while you're like that. So just the blower and the batteries. So that would be $2,800. So that's, it's a chunk of change, and it's not even like all of it. It's just a blower. And then for these rebates, you don't get them like, immediately as you're buying it. You've got to, carry that debt and, until you get your refund. So, people on a tight budget, some of these landscapers might be, that could be, an issue for some of them. But I wish the city would have something that was more than just a rebate. That's a little disappointing, but I guess it is what it is.
Did AGSA have any sort of final parting words or takeaways that they shared, be it from these outreach events or from their overall contract, that they kind of left us with, or that we should be aware of for overseeing this ordinance going forward, for council to be overseeing this ordinance going forward?
Just that it is a small process to switch, just because of the concerns that Commissioner Werner just mentioned. It does take time to fully transition because you do have to wait around for rebates to kick in. And a lot of the landscapers are from disadvantaged communities, so they might not have the capital to put that upfront cost.
Yeah, of course.
I've been encouraging homeowners who, have their lawns mowed by others, that they should be volunteering to help their gardeners bear the cost of this, because their noise level just went down. It's, we all need to do our part and so on. And these are the same people that were screaming about, the motorized, smelly leaf blowers. So that's another way to go too, is to encourage them to, consider helping subsidize that. Maybe they could help, pay more for some period of time to help them recoup the costs or something.
On that note, I mean, I've been, I think council made the right decision in that the penalty, should somebody get a penalty, is to the homeowner. So if somebody comes out, they see somebody using a gas blower, it's not the person themselves, it's the property owner associated with that activity. So I think the incentive is there. And I've been using that in my communications with my neighbors because my property doesn't need a leaf blower, whether it's electric or gas, but all the properties around me are using gas. One of them finally transitioned to electric. But with all of those conversations, I've been very clear. If you get a notice or a penalty, it's not to the person that's working your yard. It's to you. So I like that talking point because it hits people a little differently.
Yeah, and I think on that just made me think about alternatives to even using a leaf blower. I mean, it's wonderful to have an electric leaf blower. There are many cases where it's maybe necessary, but I think there are also many cases where you can get away without using a leaf blower. And that doesn't mean necessarily just switching to a rake or something like that. It could mean using something other than a lawn, like we've talked about. So doing, putting in a new like native plant garden or something like that. Something that, doesn't necessarily cut down on the dirt that needs to be blown around, but, that might be something that going forward, there could be, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, maybe a new campaign around that, losing the lawn, putting in a nice garden, showcasing what it means to have a yard that, doesn't need to be mown. Also, the emissions from your gas lawnmower too, I think are also worth considering. So,
No blow gardens.
a no-blow garden, there you go.
Or no-mow is what they usually call them.
Yeah.
So I've worked on projects where they had no-mow grasses. There are grasses that just, they just don't keep growing and growing. They get kind of to a certain point and stay there. But, maybe if the city could sponsor a competition, who has the nicest, zero maintenance, lose the lawn, but who did the best job of converting to something, a natural garden that doesn't require mowing. I mean, we have the water-wise, that's a whole nother thing too, but maybe a sustainable garden competition or something, just like they have those other ones for holiday decorations or something. This would be
Yeah.
something a little more meaningful.
Like a garden tour, that's often a thing in cities or towns, showcasing some of the wonderful gardens that people have, or front
The
yards.
low water, low maintenance.
Exactly,
ones, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is very enlightening. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see like hard numbers on a sheet, even brands here. I imagine these are all steel products, whatever they may be. Do you know what some of these are aside from the blower? Is it like batteries? Are they?
These are batteries, the ones in the second row, and then the third row is charger.
Is it charger? Okay. Right.
You can see this gardener got 6 batteries.
Right.
And-
And it reminds me too, that's another alternative. If you know what your gardener is using, you yourself as a homeowners out there, you can invest in the charger, make the charger available, maybe make a battery available, and then you can just give it to the gardener if they need. Help kind of subsidize the cost in that way.
You can see this gardener is using gas and electric.
Mhm.
I remember him. That's because his battery would run out and he would have to switch to gas, especially if the property is large and needed a lot of leaf blowing.
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts on this from the commission? I know it's not a discussion item, but
Thank you for the presentation.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nora.
Yeah, thanks for stepping in for the
Hexa.
the presenter that wasn't able to be here.
All right. What is next?
Next is 8, adjournment.
Hold on. Do you want to mention,
Oh,
don't we have an event coming up before our next commission meeting?
We do.
Oh, yes.
Ever since I've been to one of these, I highly recommend it. So if you haven't been to one yet, please make your way over there.
We have a clothing and art supply swap coming up at Brand Library. I was actually taking a tour of Brand Library today to do the site map for it. It's going to be in the little auditorium space that they have, right in front of the art exhibit. So it is going to be an art supply swap and a clothing swap on March 1st. And then we also have a repair cafe coming up. Same location, Brand Library on March 8th.
If it's all right, I would just want to make a recommendation or suggestion that me and my student commissioner would love to be a part of. I think especially considering the art supply aspect of the swap and its location being in a park and park/library, sending out some kind of informational flyer, particularly to schools, art centers, daycare centers, places like that would bring a lot of awareness, and I think it would be a very well-suited family event, if you will, that families can get a lot out of. So whether that's done by the Sustainability Commission members, me and Samantha Sanchez, I would love to be a part of that.
I'd like to challenge everyone to make at least one post on Nextdoor for their neighborhood to publicize this. Just takes a minute.
Yeah, is there an associated flyer, or do you generate flyers, or should we use this web link as our way to promote?
We just had a flyer done a couple days ago.
Okay.
So what I can do is just add all these social images and flyer to the web link. So it could be downloaded by everyone. And I did send digital flyers to schools via Peachjar, but I can also send it physically because I know Peachjar is not always the best.
You know, and I just heard, oh,
Peachjar is a way to send out flyers to every single school district and every single parent. So I send it to Glendale Unified School District.
I'm very glad that was done. Thank you.
I was going to say, if we have any contacts at LAist or within the media, I just heard them promoting a repair cafe in Long Beach. And I thought, well, what the heck? We have these every other month, it seems like, maybe quarterly. They should be promoting ours. So maybe put out the word to our media contacts as well. Drum up the crowds.
Does do you have to do that, or does the PIO do that? Does the city have should they have a PIO?
They do. So I do the first draft, send it to the PIO. The PIO edits it, and send it out to the media.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the
LA is
PIO
really,
disseminates it.
really caught on during the fires. People were following. I wasn't that familiar with them before, but now I think it's, they have a larger Glendale following than maybe they would have a couple months ago.
Okay. Is that it for sustainability office updates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Seeing as we came back to that. All right. So item 8, adjournment.
Move to adjourn?
I'll second. Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Night.